Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Andrew Capel. Let's get started. All right, welcome to another episode of the Why, What, How show. Today we have Ethan Ruby. Ethan, you have an interesting story with SaaSGrid, so why did you get started with it?
Yeah, great question. And Andrew, thanks for hosting on the podcast. So going back quite a bit, before I started SaaSGrid, I was an early stage venture capital investor in early stage SaaS companies. So I was working at Craft Ventures, and my job was twofold. It was first basically to find, diligence, and analyze companies, right? So find kind of emerging, fast-growing SaaS companies. Check out their product, make sure their metrics are good, decide which ones we wanted to invest in, and then afterwards support them, right, as they continue to grow. And so I really, I kind of did that whole thing, but I really focused on the metrics and numbers side. How do we effectively analyze an early stage SaaS company, see how well they're performing relative to their peers, then make an investment and then help them to grow after that. And so in doing that, it's pretty simple. I built a giant Excel model that kind of helped me pull in data, go through all that quickly. And then sometimes if we invested in a company, I'd share that Excel model back with them. And so I did that. Literally thousands of times over, the 7 years. I was in venture, and eventually that Excel model got really good, and companies started really liking it and actually using it, as the basis of their operating model and KPIs and board reporting and all that stuff. And so at that point, David Sachs and I, my former partner, the founder of Craft, put our heads together, like, oh, there might actually be a product here. And so we built a really simple version at first, and this is all an internal project, kind of threw it out into the wild, where it was just a CSV upload. You uploaded it, but we spit out all your SaaS KPIs and charts and all that good stuff. And people loved it, right? Like a bunch of founders, bunch of even more mature companies were using it for their data, and using it to produce charts. And we're like, oh, there might really be a product here. And that's when we started thinking about spinning it out into its own company. So at that point, I brought on my brother as a co-founder and CTO, and we started really building out a more robust platform. And then just about 2 years ago, we spun it out as its own company.
Interesting. So it was a lot of they say with SaaS, it's like it all starts as a spreadsheet. Can you do it better than a spreadsheet? Yeah. And that was like literally the example here. So you made that spreadsheet, ton of repetition. And I think that's interesting because most people, if they're out of business, they have an awesome spreadsheet, but they're N of one. But you had so many iterations or so many different businesses to work off of. And when you continued, or like you made that as an internal tool, so did you what did you put, or when you thought about moving away from the spreadsheet, did you do a lot of testing and iteration while you were still at Craft to figure out what people liked and creating prototypes and using different technologies other than Excel, or was it just always just in Excel?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I would say that, particularly, you are right? All SaaS is, in its most base form, a UI on top of a database, right? And the most simple database is Excel, and the most simple UI on top of that is Excel formulas and Excel charts. So you're always competing against Excel, especially in finance, right? That is what people are used to. And I'm not a hater at all. Excel is really, really, really good at most finance tasks. So it's a really high bar to get people out of there. And so to hit on a few things that you said, there were a few reasons why, I felt this was necessary. The first is just that SaaS has become far more standardized over time, right? There are we know the KPIs that companies need to be looking at, that they need to be focused on to grow, to retain, and to grow efficiently. And so, while these models can be built in Excel, there's actually really no need for people to build it out bespoke every single time, right? Again, this is what I discovered in thousands of repetitions. 90%, even when you take companies that look very different, one is super high ACV, big static enterprise contracts. One is super low ACV, tons of customers, even on a usage-based plan. 90% of the data model is actually still the same. And it's only 10% variance. And I really had to do this thousands of times to recognize that was the case, and that we could actually build software that, number one, 100% automatically did that first 90%, and then we would build the features to kind of do the last 10% customization. So that was a big piece. The second big piece is why you have to get out of Excel is ultimately these numbers, these metrics well, standardized are complicated, right? And there was, especially for early stage companies who didn't have dedicated professionals here who like, this wasn't the only thing that they were working on. They were just making mistakes, right? And part of that was like knowing the best methodologies. Part of that was just errors that were like really hard to uncover. So that was the second piece. And the third piece is just the data side, right? Like Excel can manipulate data, but it can't pull data. And it's tricky to merge data. So an average customer of ours has their financial data spread across at least three systems: their CRM, like Salesforce or HubSpot, their billing system, like Stripe, and their ERP, like QuickBooks, NetSuite, or Xero. And you have to actually pull all this data, and there's a ton of it from these systems. You have to merge it. You have to audit it, audit between the systems in order to get the right data set to even do your analysis on. And that's something that Excel can never do, and that our software really specializes in.
Okay, interesting. And so, Ethan, there are dozens, maybe hundreds of SaaS applications that are serving the finance suite. So where are you different, and like where do you really focus with the product of SaaSGrid?
Yeah. So to back up, what is SaaSGrid, right? SaaSGrid at the highest level is a business intelligence tool for SaaS companies, right? So we, like I was saying, we sit on top of your CRM, billing, ERP system, merge and unify your data, and then calculate all the metrics that you need, plus give you the ability to create custom metrics to run your business. And then we also do all the dashboarding on top of that, right? So this all looks really good. You can present it in a board meeting, you present it to potential investors, to your exec team, whatever it be. So we handle that entire stack for companies. And our commitment to, pulling in all financial data from these different sources and just getting the data right is our differentiator. There obviously when you're in the accounting world, you have your ERP system, and there's some good ERP systems. There's some great, new AI companies that like sit on top of your ERP system to make closes faster and easier. And if you're in like the FP&A world, there are some good tools for scenario planning and creating your future model. But ultimately, it's just the most important thing is to get your data right. And even something like FP&A doesn't work that well if you don't have your data right in the first place. And so that's really where we focus, and what we help companies do. And we work with companies of all sizes, but we have very large enterprise, a few very large enterprise customers who you've probably heard of, who, before they used to ask her, they're like, we didn't have a clear view into our ARR. We couldn't do the cuts on product lines and region that we needed to in order to really discover where we're doing well and where we're not. And so SaaSGrid's data focus helps us to do that for our customers.
Sure. And it sounds like you're sitting pretty far upstream. You're connecting directly to those three. Is it three main sources, or are there any more than that?
Yeah, so I mean, those are the three big system of records: CRM, billing, and ERP. But of course, we'll take data wherever it lives, right? It's like sometimes there's still a spreadsheet, an Excel file somewhere that has important data. We'll take that, we merge it in with the rest of your data. But yeah, it's really those big three system of records.
Okay. And why don't you talk about the first 2 years of bringing SaaSGrid to market, and then really what you're focused on in the next phase of the journey as well.
Yeah, so we launched the product officially to market, and got our first paying customers just about 18 months ago. And so it's been a whirlwind from that since then, right? We're a free tier that we have, I think, almost 1,000 active companies using our free tier right now, and then 150 customers on our enterprise paid tier. So we've brought on a lot of great customers, and we solved a lot of problems. I'm really proud of the team and excited about how much the product expanded from the initial vision, which was like upload CSV, get metrics, right? We now support, we still obviously help companies get their metrics, right? But we've added so many integrations to make that easier. And then we've also added, done what has always been a big priority for me, which is unifying sales and finance data within the org, right? So historically, and this is something we just had a conference where we talked about this, the CRO and the CFO oftentimes end up looking at a completely different set of numbers, right? The CFO's down here in ERP revenue land, the CFO's up here in Salesforce land, and there's no bridge between the two. Our unified data and then our sales pipeline metrics module, which lets people analyze basically their sales funnel conversion and how that actually translates to ARR and then revenue was our biggest product release this last year. It's been extremely popular, and it really has improved strategic alignments from team. They have their finance team, they have their sales team, they have their CEO and their board all looking at the same numbers, all speaking the same language, and that just does really good things for companies that that are trying to figure out how they can grow better.
Sure. So the product, you've evolved it. It sounds like you're still aiming for simplicity, because simplicity is the ultimate sophistication of you're providing this the source of truth visualized for the CFO and the CRO. What is the in terms of like what's ahead? Are you just continuing to try to make it better and simpler and expand that way, or do you have big plans for expanding the roadmap?
We always have big plans for expanding the roadmap, right? Like we want to be the system where all financial data lives. And so I mentioned FP&A before. Yeah. In the very near future, you'll see FP&A as part of the SaaSGrid platform as well. And I think that will go a huge way for us being kind of like the single source of truth for financial data. But to your point, it really is all about simplicity, right? And our product, because it incorporates so much data, has gotten complicated. And this is where I think there's the biggest potential impact for AI. AI is really good at wading through data and summarizing and extracting insights and customizing to fit your needs, right? And ultimately, I don't think AI is quite ready yet to kind of jump into fully unstructured data, but SaaSGrid has done the hard work of structuring people's financial data, getting it all in the right place, like having definitions defined. And so now, we are building agents that work on top of our data to help business users, to help finance, RevOps, sales leaders get to the insights into their business that they want faster and more precisely than ever. So that is going to be a really big focus for us and something I'm really excited about.
That's exciting. There's unfulfilled promises of CRM systems. I'm not going to name the big one, but like they've been talking about this for 20 years, and you kind of realize that it's not going to happen because they're never going to get the finance data into your CRM system. And so you need to really look at a different way and to be this critical insights layer and visibility layer across the business. Because if everyone's working off different numbers, there's inherently going to be misalignment. So that's really exciting.
Yep, that's our goal.
All right. Well, Ethan, where can we point to folks who want to learn more about SaaSGrid?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find us at SaaSGrid.com, SaaSGrid.com. Check us out there. You can create a free account, explore some demo data, add your own data if you're at less than $1 million of ARR, or you can connect directly to our sales team there.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for checking out the show. Please follow along on YouTube, LinkedIn, and wherever you get your podcasts.